to music first, always.
We are unstoppable.
Open the frontiers to make people meet people.
Music is not fireworks. Music is feeling.
You're good to go.
Don't you vote for the music?
This is Vote for the Music, the Eurovision podcast.
Hello and welcome back to Vote for the Music, the Eurovision podcast. I'm Benjamin Tadeusz.
And I'm Tadeusz.
Now today we are beginning our march forward on our quickfire reviews of the second half of the second semi-final of the Eurovision Song Contest 2024, which is taking place on the 9th of May in Malmö. Not long away, just a few weeks. It's all getting very exciting. Rehearsals are imminently about to begin. So very soon we'll know just how all these songs will do. But first, our reviews, of course, do continue, beginning at the start of the second half of the second semi-final, which is song number 9 in that semi-final, and of course that is Latvia's entry, which is Hollow by Dons.
It's killing me slow, trying to make me just another believer. Everybody just pretending they're preachers.
Now first of all, I will say, when I first heard this song back during Supernova, which was Latvia's national final, I was imminently underwhelmed, but I was entirely sure it was going to become Latvia's entry. For me, it's a definition of try-hard generic. I mean, honestly, it sounds like something which would come last or second to last in a melody festival in Heat. It's actually got quite a strong sort of Swedish ballad pop sound. The only thing about it really that screams Latvia is just how hard it's trying, and the fact the relative quality isn't that high. And it doesn't help that during the performance it can come across as quite comical in a way, and I think part of that is the serious tone of the lyrics matched with the overall quality of the song. For me, I think the song is quite poor, but the tone and mood of the lyrics certainly bring it down to levels of comedy.
The lyrics describe emotional/identity crisis that is actually pretty universal, with religious theme being justified by comparing various advice and criticism offered by the environment to the attempts at conversion or preaching. Interestingly, religious allusions come without either praising or attacking religion itself. Now, I usually don't pay attention to lyrics. However, Hollow as a whole is a good example how to encourage the viewer to look them up. Both the grim melody and the philosophical music video are already alluding to the theme, pointing out the importance of understanding the lyrics correctly.
As I said, I just can't agree. I think the lyrics are over the top. I think they're preachy. I think they come across as annoying. They come across as a bit too melodramatic, especially, as I say, for the relative quality of the song and the way Dons performs it. It just seems like a parody of a Joy Folk Eurovision song that perhaps you would have seen in the Eurovision movie or something.
All of this was done at the cost of expressing substance through production and melody, which is the primary medium utilized by songs, but also what Eurovision generally favors. It does offer universal and familiar simplicity, however it doesn't go for any tricks to stand out from the crowd.
I mean, it's just a boring song. Honestly, I think it is going to be the toilet break song at the semis where people go, this is boring, I'll go to the loo. Although I would disagree with you about the production. I think the production is one of the strongest elements of this, but it is also one of the elements that is going the most sort of, we're trying so hard. As I say again and again, this is what this entry is doing. It's got so much of like, we really want to get a big score on the jury points. We really want to get through. We really want to get a good result, but without putting the work in. So it's superficial with this sort of Scandinavian, Swedish melody festivalen ballad production without anything else to back it up. To Don's credit, I think he's a good vocalist, but I think he lacks any charisma, any charm, or any sort of stage presence. However, I would say that Dons as a person has all of that. I've seen him on social media, I've seen him at the pre-parties backstage, seem really entertaining, seem really charismatic, seem like a really great guy, and I generally do really like him. But on stage, all of that vanishes, and he just turns into a crying bald man. He might be Dons backstage, but on stage he's Tornik Kipiani, who had perhaps the flattest performance you could ever imagine, with actually a song fairly similar to this. I think with the exception of the production, I think these are fairly similar songs. So placing this in the Teddy Vote only semi-final, I think is a recipe for disaster, because if this was ever going to appeal to anyone, it would be the juries, which even if this got to the final, I don't think is really going to appeal to them much in the face of lots of other entries which they could have in return. So I think with televoters, this just stands very, very little chance. I would be immensely surprised if this got through to the final.
While I can't count out such a possibility, I disagree, because in my opinion, Hollow stands out by how much it is not playing by the rules of Eurovision. Especially this year, we've got a lot of heavily produced pop songs of varying quality. Meanwhile, Hollow is just a very simple ballad that you could easily play on the piano, making it different than the rest of the crowd and thus potentially memorable to the audience. This is easily their best shot at qualifying, although it's not guaranteed to work and will also require Dons to pull a flawless vocal performance. However, he's an experienced singer, so I believe that he can do this.
Well, as I said before, Supernova performances were fine vocally, but really lacked any charisma on stage. But when you actually got to his pre-party performances, not only did he lack any charisma on stage, but I think his vocals were pretty shaky as well there. Hopefully that improves the Eurovision, but they weren't great. And also, I think pretty much all of them, it was one of the only performances where you could audibly hear people just talking over the song, which is not great either. But yeah, shaky vocals at some of those pre-parties could be an issue.
He never made any major mistakes, so I believe the semi-final version will be polished to the very last note. All this makes whether Latvia qualifies or not this year a one big question mark. I personally hope it does.
I have a very strong feeling, for all the reasons I've described already, you're going to be very, very disappointed. I just don't see this appealing to anyone. I don't see this encouraging anyone to pick up the phone to vote for it. I think the only caveat to that, the only way this could get through, is just out of the sheer lack of songs in this genre or songs in any sort of slow tempo ballad genre, because we have got a big deficit of those this year. But I don't think televoters really think in reference to the other songs. I think most televoters just vote for one song and they vote for whichever one stands out to them the most. And I can't see many people going, Latvia is the one I'm going to go for.
A simple, heartfelt and relatable message is just what I needed at this stage of my life. Hollow is not a groundbreaking song. However, it is an honest song and it's a great song as far as I'm concerned. And I would love if Europe ended up appreciating it as well.
Well, I mean, Latvia have tried every trick in the book since their non-qualification streak started back in 2017, and I don't feel that streak's going to come to an end this year. It just screams a desperation of them trying everything they possibly can because they just can't get into that final. Let's think about how bad Latvia's non-qualification record is. Since 2009, they have only been in the final twice. That is twice out of 14 times. Perhaps twice out of 15 times after this year. I just think Latvia as a country, as a delegation, as a national final, as an audience in Latvia, just don't get the contest. I think Hollow encapsulates all of that, and I think this is almost certainly going to stay in that semi-final because it doesn't speak to me, and I really don't think it's going to speak to Europe. So thank you for listening to our quickfire review of Latvia's entry for this year's Eurovision Song Contest. Of course, tomorrow we will be back as we continue through the running order and we get to song number 10, which is the San Marinese entry. So if you want to keep up to date with all of that, then you can follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or wherever else you may get your podcasts, and that includes YouTube, where you can subscribe to us or leave us a comment. You can also interact with our Q&As on Spotify or leave us a review on Amazon and Apple Podcasts. But until then, thank you so very much for listening, and remember to vote for the music.